Lycans and gentlemen, children of the night, nocturnals, night terrors, and all things that go bump in the night. Welcome to your monthly treatment of shock therapy. The doctor will see you now. Show me your woes, and I'll cure all that ails you. Consider me your night watchman for this evening's festivities here at Mind's Eye Theater. I invite you to violate curfew along with me for this graveyard shift. I am your horror host, Inkarnate, for this sold-out show. Well, folks, we return once again to something that I like to refer to as crossing the streams. It is rare that I get the opportunity to do any type of live stream or content creation where I get to discuss different types of horror media that get to, as the name would suggest, cross the streams. In this regard, it would be a documentary on survival horror video games. It has been, so far, one episode down. This would be number 2, and after this, we would have 3 more to go. So, thank you, Zeus, for mentioning Iran. Troll. Anyway, okay, don't spam the chat now. But in all seriousness, it is my pleasure to host this because, again, not only is my channel dedicated to horror movies, horror games, and all things that revolve around our favorite genre, but for me, this is long overdue. I was wondering why it is like, man, and look, I'm a horror documentary nut. So when I would see, a deluge of content or documentaries surrounding zombies and Hammer Studios, I'm saying to myself, that's all well and good, but can we get like some material for horror games? Like, I don't know. I think that spectrum of the genres is still important. So why is it that we don't get anything for it? Like, why don't we get a bridging of the gulf? Why don't we get a dedicated horror documentary? Now, I would see independent content creators speak on the history or the origins of survival horror, but never a dedicated documentary. And folks, Creator VC Live, they couldn't have been a better choice to handle this, just because they would go all out with it. They would apply the production value necessary. And give me a second. Taking a swig for the working man. But much like In Search of Darkness, their 80s and 90s horror documentary, they wouldn't just do 2 hours and done. Personally, I always feel like that's a disservice whenever you get a documentary like that. Just because, generally speaking, it's one thing if you're doing a behind the scenes of a specific film, but with something as vast as survival horror, which has something of a 50-year legacy, yes, we would think that it began in the 80s, but it was actually earlier. Excuse me. Something as vast as the survival horror, that flip side of the coin of the horror genre, it cannot and should not be confined to an hour and a half, 2 hours, and frankly even 4 hours. So the fact that Creator VC was going to be behind it, I knew that they were going to do right by it, and they were going to do a lengthy series, which is what they did. I'm happy for the sake of my channel that they broke it up into 5 separate episodes, and that gets us to this watch party. So at last watch, we were taking a look at the origins of the horror games, and I'm happy to report that they paid great tribute to the 2 titans, the undisputed heavyweight champions of survival horror that even still thrive to this day, those being Resident Evil and Silent Hill. And how appropriate that in this month alone we got the news that Bloober Team is going to be, sorry, I'm a little under the weather. Bloober Team was going to be handling the remake for the very first Silent Hill, and we got the reveal of the trailer for Resident Evil 9 Requiem. So, I'm excited for this one. And let's see, I posed the question to all of you fine people. What are your expectations for this film? There is a little, there's something I like to do in order to get some kind of engagement with my viewing audience, which is asking the question, what are your expectations for this? If you've seen it before, what rating would you give it? If you have seen episode 2 of Terrorbytes, or if you haven't, excuse me, what are your expectations for it? And your options are as follows. Do you give it a bottom of the barrel, shallow grave, or what I'm going with, high stakes? So be sure to write your what rating you would give in the comments section. For me, I have to go high stakes. Again, this is such a long time in the making, a long time in the waiting, and I'm ecstatic that we get this level of quality when it comes to something that I think is a long time coming, obviously, and it's something that is very beneficial because you have to understand that a lot of the creators of a lot of the what's the word I'm looking, the forefathers of survival horror, they're still alive, they're still around in order to give us their insight into what it was like creating many of these legendary series that we enjoy today. And obviously you don't get that with the film aspect of horror. You know, if we're excuse me, if we're talking about the beginnings of horror, like you're talking about over 100 years ago, and obviously many of the legendary names that began with the silent era, with the gothic era, with the universal monsters, they're obviously gone and dead. Like they are superseded by their grandchildren, you know what I mean? So with survival horror, Shinji Mikami, Akira Yamaoka, all these people are still alive, so they are here to tell us what it was like creating Silent Hill, or what it was like creating Alien Isolation. And I mean, I hope they go into how they had, and well, maybe it will be, since this episode is on lethal licenses. Maybe they will speak on how the Alien Isolation had an uphill battle after Alien Colonial Marines. Okay, so I have the totem poll up on the YouTube chat, which I would invite everyone to vote in the totem poll. I'll be referencing it throughout the watch party. And now that that's out of the way, let me take care of a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll jump right in. And I don't think that the discs have been delivered yet, but if you've purchased your own copy, you can feel free to watch this on YouTube. Just YouTube is available via the link that you would have gotten from Creator VC if you backed this documentary, and feel free to listen to me as a secondhand source on your phones. So let me take care of a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll jump right in. So this watch party is brought to you in partnership with Hotness TV. Since we're in the summer holiday seasons and Memorial Day is behind us, we just had Juneteenth and 4th of July is around the corner. If you're in the market for either Jabra headsets or Samsung devices, you can check the link in the description. We have sponsorship links with these brands. It would serve as a nice kickback for the channel. Speaking of documentaries, the Mind's Eye Theater has as a proud affiliate the upcoming horror documentary Mental Health and Horror. So when that comes out, I plan to do a watch party for it as well as a review. You can check the support link up top for PayPal. If you're of a mood, I'll just consider it your pound of flesh. Also, the link in the description is for our merch store provided to us by Streamlabs.com. So, we are coming to you live, streaming on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, not TikTok, Kick, X, Rumble, and Locals. So in the enduring battle between Inkarnate and the almighty algorithm, my fans are my strongest weapon. Therefore, without further ado, I now offer you this creature presentation. Igor, throw the switch. Okay, and we are going to start. Give me one quick second. I am a one-man operation. We're going to start the show now. Iconic. Richard Moss. I have to look him up. I wonder if he has directed other other documentaries for In Search of Darkness. Ugh. I have to look at my emails because I saw something from Creator VC that they were considering doing a slasher documentary. No, please don't. Your skills are best served elsewhere. Isn't it crazy? Like, no one would think to do a colorophobia, fear of clowns. I don't get it. Even though it wasn't highly successful, I mean, maybe it was for comedic value, but Pixel Terror, Prologue. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it was kind of a joke, if we're being honest. The adaptations from the early 80s. I mean, it's an appreciated effort, but it just wasn't. It's part of the history, but it wasn't what propelled it. You know what I mean? The adaptation of, as they mentioned, Texas Chainsaw. There was a Jaw. I wonder if they'll talk about the Jaws video game. Yeah. The technology hadn't caught up to even really make an adaptation. Didn't they come out with a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game like a year or two ago? Hey, Angel's back. Watching these reactions without the context of watching the actual episode are so funny to me. You make the funniest random remarks. Why, thank you. I try. Yeah, look at how crappy that chainsaw looked. Oh my god. Because pixels were nowhere near what they needed to be. It just looks like a dot orbiting around a pole. I've never seen any of the Halloween games. Really? Ugh, angry video game nerd. I'm not a fan. No, they weren't at all. Of course. Ugh, God. No. The Friday the 13th game did what Friday the 13th movies do and just rip off other people's material. Well, they're going to get to it momentarily. The only reason why anyone cares about this is because of the Tyson Punch-Out remake, rip-off. And the only reason why people care about the recent Friday the 13th game that released a couple years back is because due to rights issues, it got like canceled and taken off digital shelves. Oh god, here we go. I wonder if they'll talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street video game. Yeah, here we go. Oh, they're not going to talk about how it ripped off Tyson Punch-Out, really. They should really, like, of all the video games of the slashers, or the licensed slashers. They really should remake A Nightmare on Elm Street. I know there's an issue with the license with the rights going back to. Angel just asked, I've seen your reactions, but I haven't actually seen the episodes. Where do you watch them on? They are on YouTube, but I think they're only accessible through the link that Creative VC sent to backers of the documentary. So it would have had to been emailed to you. The actual links for the documentary. Well, wait, they made a Psycho game? I did not know that. Blair Witch. Oh, God. Oh, this I did know about. I did know about Dracula's, Bram Stoker's Dracula. What? Really? I did not know that. Or maybe I did hear that. Mm. I've always found it interesting that Bram Stoker. Oh, I don't know. Did Bram Stoker's Dracula have an influence on Castlevania? I wonder if that. If I wonder if they will discuss that. Yeah. Ghostbusters. Yes. They did. Well, yeah. That's true because I remember collecting the RoboCop toys, and oh my god, that movie, the original is gory. Yeah. No. I had forgotten about the ET game. Yeah. That only lasted but so long, huh? And yep. No kidding. Ah. Wait, what do we okay. They made a Fright Night game? Ray Bradbury, Orwell. I've read up on I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and I'm surprised someone thought to make a video game of it. Sounds like Mark Hamill, the voiceover. And that is one dark story. So I'm actually glad that this got some notoriety. Look who it is. Harlan Ellison. Hmm. Oh yeah, he did write for Star Trek. Cantankerous, there's the word. Oh my god. I always liked that Harlan Ellison was a big curmudgeon-y. Right. This was another game I think deserves a remake to bring it to modern audiences to level up the graphics and the story. I can only think of the Metro series as another example of a book adapted into a game that has reached any kind of notoriety, other than Dante's Inferno, which methinks not. Angel, if you could take to the totem pole in the YouTube chat to vote on what your expectations for this documentary are, either bottom of the barrel, shallow grave, or high stakes. Oh, geez. What? Oh my god. Hmm. Hmm. I didn't know that. Fistful of boomstick. Hey, Clive Barker Jericho. Brian Gomez. Yeah, this is a very dark story. Oh, Jesus. Wow. What? Turn it to broken glass? Ew. Oh my god. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Ah, yes, perfect reference. Pages of Fear. Oh, cool. Also, now we're gonna go get into books that have been adapted. This awesome. Really? Mm-hmm. Eh. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Don't worry, I voted long ago. Hopefully, we don't get let down. Oops. I don't know. I think they're stretching with this one. Would anyone really compare GLaDOS to Mary Shelley or Frankenstein? Bloodborne. I gotta play Bloodborne. I gotta see where I can factor it into my live streams. Clive Barker, The Art of Horror. Man, they really need to make a Hellraiser game. Like, come on already. Oh, man. Yeah. Seriously, if you're not going to go with Hellraiser, I mean, come on. There's plenty of other material that you could draw from Clive Barker. Absolutely. Yeah. Wes Craven. I am still a fan of Clive Barker's Jericho. I don't care what anybody says. I love that game. I will defend it to the end. Ah, yeah. Yep. Shout out to yep, there you go, Scorn. Thank God. I was blanking on the name of this. And I've heard that is the case with Scorn. Half-Life, yeah. Good question. Oh crap, I didn't even think of that. Oh my god. Yeah, man. Lovecraft's influence on gaming. Lovecraft has a much bigger influence on gaming than he does on film. Angel asks, have you heard of the YouTube show Generation Loss? If not, I highly recommend. It's not professionally made, but it's definitely a highly loved horror by me. Oh, thank you for recommending that. I'll look into that. What is it called? Generation Loss. I'll take a look at that. Really? And they've introduced Lovecraft elements to the Doom, the Dark Ages. It's funny, a lot of wimped out, really. Yeah, Clive Barker wasn't a fan of Lovecraft, but there are stories that he's written that are comparable to it's to the Cthulhu mythos. So it is debatable, or a debate can be made if Lovecraft had an influence on him. Here we go. Oh, the thing. Never mind. I thought we were gonna jump right into Undying, but here we go. No, I'm. Mm. I debate if the thing is a ripoff of At the Mountains of Madness. I read At the Mountains of Madness myself, and I would like to hear it from John Carpenter himself. If there's an influence, there's a Lovecraft influence on the thing, because I've heard Guillermo del Toro talk about how it's a ripoff. It's like, dude, shut up. You're not a good horror director, let alone it should be commenting on other people's work. I actually played the remaster for the thing earlier this year. It was the second game of my winter stream warning. Once it came to console, I absolutely couldn't. And perfect timing for winter. I knew I couldn't just skip off on it. Angel says the channel itself is called Generation Loss. I'd suggest watching the Founders Cut. It's a mix of all 3 episodes with better editing. Think The Truman Show and Saw mixed together. Interesting. Yeah, even by the PS2 era, it's debatable whether or not gaming tech had arrived at the point. And look, I'm not talking graphically, but being able to capture the mood of many either horror movies or horror movies that they were attempting to adapt. Yeah, that was interesting. The trust system. Yeah, that's true. It had to be because of the limitations of the technology. Well, that's the benefit of immersion. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, oh, that was such a pain in the ass when. Right. True. I like how they canonized the game. I greatly appreciate that because that was like unheard of all the way back in the 2000s. Mm, of course. When he appears in it, that's a nice, like, if you're not expecting it, it's a cool surprise. And they kill him. They really did show. Oh, God, those creatures. The head crab. Agreed. It speaks to how modern horror movies are lacking that no one would think to make a video game about like anything that's come out recently, to be honest. Whereas, previously mentioned, you can do a thing adaptation and people actually enjoy it, and it is contributing to survival horror. You can do a Clive Barker's Jericho, or you would want a Hellraiser adaptation. You don't really get that with anything that's come out within like the last 20 years. Lost in translation. Oh, nice. I respect that they would, go into this. How, a lot of the adaptations kind of didn't cross over just because, of the technology of the time when these games were coming out. Yeah, that's another thing. They wouldn't understand game mechanics, so see, it was those limitations why I would like to see I'm sorry, Nightmare on Elm Street modern adaptation. And there were mechanics from the original game that I think would be great to cross over into a modern adaptation. I'd like it if they spoke about, oh god, the Buffy game. I forgot that was a thing. God, Joss Whedon. I would like it if they spoke about Legacy of Kain. Not that it's based on a book or anything. Or if you are talking about adaptations, I would like it if they discuss the first Arkham Asylum, because that an argument can be made that that is a horror game. I mean, the best levels on it are horror. Actually, I do think that incorporating stealth elements into modern survival horror would be good because you're obviously hiding from the monster. Yeah, I could see where. Holy cow, I've never met another person who actually knows who Buffy is. This is a rare moment. What? What are you talking about? Nice, there we go. Clive Barker's Jericho. I'm glad they talked about this. I don't care if people consider it a failure. I love this game. I absolutely love the story from the game, and especially the origin of each of the time slices. Really? Yeah. I remember the reviews tore it the hell apart. And again, you'll hear me depending on what specific games that they mention, you'll hear me say, "Oh, this deserves a remake. That deserves a remake." Look, I would never do that for, generally speaking, for horror movies, even though there are some I'd like to see revived. But I'm a sucker for stories that just didn't land. Great premise, but didn't land. Angel says, it's true. I mention it in public and just get stared at menacingly. Really? Menacingly? Yeah, not tactical. What? Oh, that was a big thing back in the day. I do remember that one of the characters in the manual for Clive Barker's Jericho looks different from the final design. The Walking Dead. Oh God. Get these annoying people that spam the chat. A fistful of boomstick. This is this game is highly recommended by G-Man Lives. Oh God. Let me see if I can get rid of this annoying chat that someone wrote in. The only other person who knows Buffy is my mom, bro. She was the one who introduced me to it. That's funny. We just hit that half-hour mark. This particular episode is going to be an hour and a half. So, guys, if you could remember to hit the like button on whichever platform you're watching this on, it'd be greatly appreciated. That was cool that Bruce Campbell did lend his voice to the Evil Dead games. And since we're a half hour in, I'm glad to see a good mix of some of the. Oh, what do we got next? Deadly Premonition or Ju-on? Deadly Premonition. Is Deadly Premonition based on something? Anyway, what I was saying, I'm happy to see that we have a mix of adaptations that, some worked, some didn't, and I'm glad that they are reminding me of some adaptations that I had completely forgotten about. Evil Dead, for instance. Besides the early slasher ones, the only other one that I could think of really was Alien Isolation. Or Metro series. I'm surprised there hasn't been a Stephen King game. I think that's hit it big, you know what I mean? I think that Welcome to Derry, the series is trying to do with it, I think that would work as a video game. Like the early chapters, the early decades of Pennywise on the loose, you know what I mean? During the chapter 1 of the 2017, not remake, but reboot, I guess, they pepper in enough ideas or past events where Pennywise was terrorizing the town of Derry that I think would make for ample material for a prequel of sorts. You know what I mean? Oh, what the hell? I've heard that Razor Fist recommended Deadly Premonition. He did enjoy the hokiness of it. Endearing or enduring? What? Mm-hmm. I've heard that this is similar to Twin Peaks. There you go. See? Called it. Really? The good thing about Twin Peaks is that Agent Cooper is connected to something that ordinary people can't understand. And it's interesting how that helps to solve cases. I think that's what makes it interesting. So I want to bring that feeling into a game. Oof. You're about a court low. God, this guy's neck is. Gotta get my calisthenics in. What the hell's up with his hair? I always have meetings with screenwriter Kenji Goda at a family restaurant in the middle of the night. During those times when we were working on plots late at night, at around dinner time, an old man and old woman came in, and they sat at opposite ends of the table in a family restaurant, facing each other and saying, "What's that?" I immediately took notes to capture the scene, and later embellished it. Okay. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Spending a lot of time on this one video game. Uh-huh. No, I want to hear more about that. I surprising I surprisingly I don't think I've seen that movie. Attack. Films? Okay, I think I'm ready to move on to other other adaptations. Oh, Jesus. Hello, Igor. Oh my God, your teeth. Oh my God, your teeth are positively British. Do you not make enough money to see a dentist? The Mummy Demastered. I figured we get to The Walking Dead sooner or later. Hey, gotta give it its credit. God. The glut of... I was just talking about this with my review and preview of 28 Years Later. Oh, man, if there's one thing that I detest, it is the glut of zombie games and zombie movies and zombie shows. I did play it. I was bored with it, to be honest. God forbid someone is talking about something they're passionate in. Shaking my head. What are you talking about? Angel, what are you referring to? I played this on the PS Vita, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Yes, I did. It wasn't particularly gripping, to be honest. The trust system was kind of just there. I didn't have much of a reason to for it. It didn't give me much of a reason for replay, to be honest. Cell shaded art design. God, this guy's neck. You mentioned someone talking about a game too long. No, they were talking about Deadly Premonition. I just thought it was strange that they were spending more time on that than other adaptations such as Evil Dead or what was it? Evil Dead or Clive Barker. I do give The Walking Dead credit, at least on the video game side and the TV side. They did try to distinguish them so that they weren't like the same repetitive story. I don't remember the name of the Walking Dead game that was like just horrendous. I think it was, who was it? Which character was Dixon? One of the Dixon brothers. The Telltale game was like the pinnacle of Walking Dead video games. Wasn't... Oh no. I was gonna say, wasn't The Last of Us based on... Oh, damn. Was, The Road, I think it's similar to The Last of Us. It was not directly based off of a book. I think it's inspired by one. Damn. This chick's shirt and arm are tripping me out. Her graffiti looks like an extension of her Constellation shirt. No. I guess their version of Carl. Similar to the girl from The Last of Us, right? Because she lost her father figure too, as seen in the recent season of the TV show. Have you been hearing all the hate The Last of Us show is getting? It's so unnecessary. I have. I heard that it followed the last season, or the second season of The Last of Us show has followed directly the Last of Us game, and not a lot of people are happy about that because of the what do you call it? The hate surrounding that. I myself will never play or play the game or watch it just because I didn't agree with the writer director of the Last of Us game demonetizing videos that people were making commenting on the second game. I thought that was BS. Like, there's no reason you should go out of your way. If you make a piece of content, a movie, TV show, video game, you shouldn't demonetize people or go after them, try to deplatform people just because you don't agree with their assessment of what it is that you've created. Neil Druckmann, I think his name was. So I will never play those games. I'll never live stream them or watch the show just because I greatly disagree with that. And a lot of people weren't happy with the death of the main character or the father figure in the second game and the second season of the show. Plus, I mean, I'm not like I said, I try to limit the amount of zombie TV, zombie movies, zombie shows, and by the time we got to the clickers, I was just done. I'm like, okay, they're made from a fungus or whatever. Like, it wasn't particularly interesting to me. Razor Fist, who's my favorite live streamer, he hasn't particularly. No, let's do Predator Concrete Jungle. All right, we had to get to Alien Isolation. Fine. Yeah, absolutely. I hope they talk about the. Oh crap. Yee. This is another game that I need to play for this and Bloodborne. I need to play on the live stream. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I think that the untold story of Alien Isolation is the fact that it was the comeback kid. It was able to finally give a modern, scary interpretation of Alien. And usually, game designers would always go the action route. It'd be based off of Aliens instead of Alien. So not only was Alien able to pull that off, you have one stalker that instead of like a horde, instead of a hive, and the other big story that I think that goes unrecognized is that Alien Isolation was the comeback kid because 1 year prior to its release, Alien Colonial Marines, oof, my god. What a stinker. Angel says, I must be under a rock because I didn't hear about the demonetization BS, but I did cry when Joel died. Yeah, people were... Well, I'll get to that in a second. I just want to listen to what they have to say about Alien Isolation. It's crazy that we're only getting a sequel to this because of Alien Romulus. Like, how did... This was the definitive horror game. Oh, God. That's creepy. In the corridor. It's wild to me that it's been 12 years since this... 12? No, 11 years since this game came out. And no one thought to make a sequel of this. I know that IGN didn't give it great reviews, but to me, like, how do you not acknowledge that this was the horror title of the 8th generation of consoles? People forget, and shout out to Razorfist because he mentioned this. The heir apparent to survival horror for the 8th generation of consoles was intended to be The Evil Within. That got a sequel, and it was considered a failure. Like both games, really. Nobody talks about that in the modern day. However, Alien Isolation took the mantle from what was supposed to go to The Evil Within. Nice. Yeah, the only positive thing about Alien Romulus is that now we're getting a sequel to Alien Isolation. Shout out to Mauler because I think he mentioned that on Friday Night Tights. I didn't hear about Alien Isolation sequel. I was hoping that they were going to get to Predator Concrete Jungle. Oh, nice. Oopsie. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. The pulse rifle. It would be it would be interesting if they watching this scene from the original Ridley Scott Alien and compared to Alien Isolation. It would be kind of cool if there was like a heavy breathing or a cold sweat mechanic in modern horror games where you have to like wipe your brow and your vision's being blurred because of the amount of sweat that you're feeling. Mm. Yeah, right. Oh, oopsie. Oh, look what I found. Imagine saving right. You save the point right when you get killed. Like, what point would that be? Yeah, dude. Sound design is very key with survival horror. I know that from firsthand experience. There's times where I'm trying to think. What game did I play recently where I'm just looking all around because, oh crap. I'm looking all around because I'm hearing things. Let me think. I can't remember. Damn. I can't remember offhand, but I know for a fact that I have played games where I'm just like, "Oh my god, what the hell what is around me? I'm hearing all of these sounds. I'm not seeing anything." That I thought would always be interesting if you were, say, a Dead by Daylight. I thought Dead by Daylight. That's not an adaptation. Anyway, I always thought it'd be interesting in a video game. You, as a synthetic, would have to guide someone. You'd have to guide someone away from or through a corridor, but you have to protect them from face huggers within the very tight claustrophobic spaces. What does Dead by Daylight have to do? Yeah. Hey, shout out to Dead by Daylight as well as Hunt Showdown because they were popular. They are popular games that have survived beyond the. They have survived from the eighth generation of console and are still going. I always hoped that honor would go to Evolve. I really liked Evolve, but man, that whew, not only did it not make it, it just imploded. I always prefer Dead by Daylight when they have original monsters as opposed to licensed. Oh, that's why they're doing Dead by Daylight. Duh. What? What the hell are we talking about here? What is this game? Oh my god! I have never heard of this game before. Wow. I always laughed at that scene in Friday the 13th where the girl just kind of like gives up. She doesn't even bother running away. Yeah, and that's another thing about Dead by Daylight to me. The most, apart from the licensed killers from movies and such, I the most interesting killers aren't necessarily slashers to me. You know what I mean? I do need to play Dead by Daylight. That and Hunt Showdown. I will give a minor. Well, yeah, I'll give a spoiler. I recently did a video of my A Tale of Two series section of my channel, comparing the upcoming prequel of Gears of War E-Day, along with the current prequel for Doom the Dark Ages. I absolutely want, and I think need, to do a breakdown, and it would probably be very lengthy, of a comparison and a celebration of the perseverance of Dead by Daylight as well as Hunt Showdown. Angel says, to be honest, if someone were chasing me and I knew that I couldn't run away any faster, I'd give up too. Yeah, but bro, that girl in Friday the 13th turns around, sees Jason, screams, and then just gives up on life. She doesn't even try to, like, run away. And it was the first Friday the 13th that they showed. Yeah, I do give credit for Dead by Daylight for having that diversity. That was interesting. Yeah. I thought that was interesting how they added Silent Hill as well as Ari. That I thought that was really cool of them. One of the few times I enjoyed their licensed depictions in Dead by Daylight. Interesting. I never heard of that. Ha ha ha. I do need to do a watch party of the documentary that's on Shudder, I believe, for horror and heavy metal. I think that deserves delving into. Oh God. Pass. Nick Cage, Jesus. I've never understood why horror props up Nick Cage when every other film genre has rightfully forgotten that this guy exists. As opposed to what now? Let me see. Where are we on the watch? We're about to hit the 1 hour mark. Agreed. What do we got? Epilogue. New realities. Yeah. Even though it had the opposite effect. I wish that Star Trek would the Jurassic Park game's true. I wish that Star Trek would like take its game licensing more seriously. I wish they would come out with a dedicated freaking survival horror game that was based on Jurassic Park. But we do have a couple. We do have a couple upcoming dinosaur horror games, not necessarily Jurassic Park or, God forbid, freaking Dino Crisis. Guys, we just passed the 1 hour mark. If you're, no matter what platform you're watching this on, if you could hit the like button, it'll just help to circulate this bloodstream. I heard that there is an upcoming Jurassic Park game. It might be a sequel to this title that they're discussing here. That is some crappy looking animation. This is a video game? Yep, because the Velociraptors are the xenomorph of the Jurassic Park brand. Jesus, man. Concussing yourself? Aw. Oh, man. This cell shading is terrible. While it's Jurassic World Aftermath, to me, it's kind of crazy that they always default. Oh God, The Exorcist, really? VR games, ugh. Anyway, it's always been crazy to me that with Jurassic Park anything, they always prioritize the T-Rex and the Raptors, and I get it, but it's like, dude, dinosaurs are more than two species. That, like, imagine a scene where you step on a stegosaur or a triceratops egg, and the mother finds you and chases you the entire. Like, you have this. She can pick up on the scent of the egg that you trampled on, and it's now that tank is now chasing you throughout the entire game. Just an idea. I don't remember if I've ever heard of this Exorcist game or if I just wrote it off because it was VR. Angel says, I last watched Jurassic Park when I was 10, but I feel like the games wouldn't be the same as the movies. Are you thinking about separate timelines? No, I'm just thinking about a Jurassic Park game that would be more survival horror. The original Jurassic Park movie is a horror movie. It absolutely is. Just the way that they the reveal of the carnivores, how they have the velociraptors. You see how they feed, but they're being covered by tall grass when they devour the cow. The reveal of the T-Rex, the thundering, stepping. Oh, Saw movies. I completely forgot about, or Saw games, excuse me. Anyway, so the reveal of the carnivores, the Dilophosaurus scene, it absolutely is a horror movie. It's just that it has that triumphant theme song and it has kids in it, and they didn't go, all the way rated R. You know what I mean? Alone in the Dark. Oh my God. Oof. Horror video games adapted. I didn't even think that they were going to go into this. I didn't think they were going to go into movie adaptations of horror games. The only two good horror game adaptations, or game adaptations in general, are Silent Hill, the original, and I am looking forward to. We just got news that Return to Silent Hill is going to release January 2026. That's one. And as well, Street Fighter. And I'll fight anyone on that. The original Street Fighter movie is amazing. Yes, the one with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Damn it. I'm surprised they haven't spoken about Sweet Home, because Sweet Home was based on a book or TV show, right? I I think there's a Netflix show called. I think Netflix made a show called Sweet Home, but it's like unrelated. The show and the game are two different IPs. Oh my God, we're done already? Oh, it's because I had forgotten. It's because these freaking. Let me see. Yeah, 20 minutes worth of freaking. What do you call it? Credits. Let me just make sure that there's no scene that I'm missing. Give me one quick second. Let me fast forward through this playthrough. I can't believe it's that many freaking credits. 20 minutes? Like, really? Movies have freaking, like, I don't know, 5 minutes, maybe 10? So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I definitely did. What I liked about this particular episode 2, was that it, you know, the one of the reasons why I wanted to watch and live stream or do a watch party for each of these episodes was to reacquaint myself with going down the rabbit hole of survival horror, the beginnings of it, the origins, as well as, in this particular case, licensed IPs. So one thing that I did find interesting is that when my expectations for this particular episode, because I knew what the title was and what the theme was going to be, I thought to myself, I should say the only, how can I put it? The only games that came to mind were a bit of a dichotomy between recent survival horror adaptations as well as, what was it? Recent adaptations and the beginnings of licensed games, because as they mentioned, they were treated as a joke. Ones that came to mind for me were the original 4 slashers. You had the Freddy Krueger video game, the Friday the 13th video game, Halloween, which I don't recall previous to this documentary seeing any gameplay of the Halloween game, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But those were more played for laughs, and to be honest, they just came out when the technology just wasn't there to do what they want and to be able to get proper immersion, you know what I mean? So those were played more for jokes. Angel says 20 minutes of credits would send me into psychosis, I fear. Yeah, I just fast forward through the remainder of the documentary, and yeah, we're not missing anything with all of that. All those 20 minutes, there's no hidden feature or mid credits anything. So that nicely brings us to the end. So, like I mentioned, going into this documentary, the only adaptations that came to mind were ones from the beginning of the survival horror, which came out in the 80s to early 90s, and they weren't anything to write home about. Really, the only thing that can be mentioned is the comedic effect of the Friday the 13th plagiarism of Tyson's Punch-Out. Although I do think that any eagle-eyed gaming fans or gaming developers would see the value in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, because they had that sleep mechanic. And what do I mean? You have to drink coffee and other caffeine, sugar, whatever, to stay awake. So you do need to keep that as like a health bar. You need to keep that up, and if you fall asleep, you obviously lapse into the dream world. So I thought that was an interesting mechanic that, again, an eagle-eyed game developer or game fans who would want to make a Nightmare on Elm Street video game fan-made game, they would do well to incorporate that gameplay mechanic. So like I was saying, one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this documentary and live stream it is because it would reacquaint me with the beginnings of survival horror, and it was good to go down memory lane and be reminded about a lot of these adaptations that are based on other works. I was hoping that they were going to talk about the Metro series, that and Sweet Home. That's two games that I think deserve being mentioned. The Metro series, similar to Hunt Showdown as well as Dead by Daylight, are two franchises that have continued on from the days of the PS4 and the series. I'm sorry, not the series, the Xbox One. But like I said, the only games that came to mind about adaptations, as far as adaptations, were the original slashers and Alien Isolation, and the vast difference between them, not just in terms of graphical fidelity, but storytelling and the impact on survival horror. Because, you know, when you think of survival horror, you're not thinking of the original Halloween game or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're thinking of those in like a comedic sense, like, oh man, look at our humble beginnings, you know what I mean? But watching this reminded me of adaptations such as Dead by Daylight, The Thing. I can't believe I forgot. I can't believe I forgot about The Thing in terms of an adaptation, especially since I played it earlier this year. It was part of my winter stream warning. Evil Dead, Clive Barker's Jericho. Oh my god. It is a crime that we haven't gotten more adaptations of anything Clive Barker in the video game space. I am going to play Undying one of these days. And that's another thing I wish that they spoke more about. Like, Stephen King really doesn't have much of a presence, unless I'm missing something. There are no video games based on works of Stephen King. They might be influenced by them. For instance, they mentioned what was Alan Wake. It's basically a Stephen King video game, but it's not an official adaptation of any of his works. So to me, it's crazy that we haven't gotten those, but we absolutely should get more video game adaptations of Clive Barker's work. I mean, what Arabat, I think, is his dark fantasy story. What else? His Tortured Souls series. What else? Weave World. I mean, we absolutely should get adaptations of Clive Barker's work. If we haven't gotten anything fresh on the cinema scene, we absolutely should get something from the video game side. I mean, I think that would be huge. But alas, if that's not going to be the case, we can at least hope and dream. Do playthroughs of what we do have available. I've done not just playthroughs of Clive Barker's Jericho. That was my initial Shadow Play, which is my live stream edition during every Halloween. That was the playthrough of Clive Barker's Jericho, was the kickoff of the Shadow Play. I have not only done playthroughs of each time slice, but I read for my Mind's Eye Radio, I read the backstory of each time slice, which I highly recommend you watch. But one thing I think is necessary, a necessary takeaway from this chapter, from Lethal Licenses, is while adapting, and now that the technology is much more, how can I put it? It's much more robust gaming technology, but also it's taken seriously. It's not looked at as like kid, video games aren't looked at as like kid stuff. Now that precedent has been established, it is great to be able to create original stories while being able to make adaptations. But one thing I find interesting is in the, how can I put this? In the Grand Canyon sized gap between, for instance, the original Friday the 13th game, all the way to Resident Evil. From the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, all the way to Silent Hill. While I accept that licensed games were part of the beginnings, the humble beginnings of developing, of shaping survival horror, survival horror was always at its best when it made its own monsters. And again, it's great if you can dip your toe into adaptations of movies, of books, of TV shows, what have you. But to me, I'm happy that when you think of survival horror, it was able to craft its own monsters. You know what I mean? I think that has only, and look, you'd be hard pressed to find someone like a bigger fan of me that to bridge the gap between survival horror and scary movies. It's one of the founding principles of why I started a YouTube channel, because I want to do what I call cinema darchives, which is reviews of horror movies. I want to comment on the state of horror, but I also want to do live streams, which I do both. Just yesterday, I did a preview, a precaution before I headed out to the theater to watch 28 Years Later. And upon my return from the theater, I did a aftershock, a reaction to the movie I had just seen. Highly recommended, by the way. Shadow _ BH says, hello. I think he meant to say hello, but he's saying it in a comedic fashion. But it is also imperative that there be a distinction between survival horror so that it can stand on its own. And while we get new games and new monsters and new gaming experiences, for instance, I'm looking forward to the Goodbye Sweet Carol, that horror game, that independent horror game that looks as though it is it's a playable Disney cartoon, but a dark fantasy version of it. Really looking forward to that. While we get unique experiences like that, I am happy to see that that survival horror has been taken seriously to the point that you can have an adaptation of a popular film, such as The Thing Remastered, that crosses over into, not only crosses over into video games, but is something that is an essential piece of survival horror, of the continuation of scary games. But on the flip side, you can have a horror movie that's based off of a popular gaming franchise like the original Silent Hill, and I'm very much looking forward to the upcoming return to Silent Hill. While it is essential, that piece of it, again, I emphasize, and I hope that if you're going to take away anything from this watch party of episode 2, it's that survival horror has been able to craft its own identity, stand apart from horror movies, that flip side of the coin of the genre. And when you think of survival horror, you're not thinking, oh, that gaming version of a horror movie like Ghostface or Freddy Krueger. I'm so happy that it has been able to carve its own niche. And when you think of survival horror, you think of the nurses from Silent Hill, you think of Red Pyramid Thing, you think of Nemesis, you think you know what I mean? So again, just to close this particular watch party out, I'm elated that licenses is something, yes, not only part of the beginnings of the origins of survival horror, but that it was able to adapt to the point that be taken seriously, to the point that we can get an Alien Isolation, something that just lands, something that was what I refer to as nirvana. Finally we get to a point where we can have a proper Alien game and it's celebrated. You know what I mean? It's adored. I did wish that they were going to talk about Arkham Asylum, because hey, if we're talking about adaptations, and horror movies or horror experiences, then that Arkham Asylum is the Batman horror game that we never got as a movie. But that's a minor critique. So I have been working like a madman this particular week. Let me see. As I previously mentioned, just yesterday, I did a movie preview, which I call my precaution before I headed out to watch 28 Years Later, and I did a reaction video upon my return, which I refer to as an aftershock, just so you know. Be sure to check out both, but I do recommend the new 28 Years Later, and I am anticipating a strong box office for it because it absolutely deserves it. As far as coming attractions, and I also did my review of the recent animated anthology for the Predator film. I refer to my rant about the review that I did as Predator Filler of Killers. So you can imagine what I thought of that, but I do invite you to check that out. Angel said, "That was my brother. Don't mind him." Oops. Okay. So, yes, as far as coming attractions, so my Mind Games schedule is typically live streaming Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard. I have another pretty busy week coming up. I'm going to be away on vacation this weekend coming up. The following weekend. So I'm going to try to pack in as much as I can as far as content is concerned. So tomorrow, I will be doing Terrorbytes Episode 3 watch party. I'm going to try to do also a double stream, not just a watch party, but a live stream of Rip Out Round 2. That's the survival horror game that I have been playing on my new gaming PC. Shout out to me. So I'm not going to make any promises, but I'm going to do either Saturday or Sunday, most likely tomorrow. I'm going to do a double stream where I play Rip Out Round 2 and Terrorbyte. I'll do a watch party for Terrorbytes Episode 3. So make sure to bring your asses right back here. And on Sunday, I'm going to do a live stream of Rip Out Round 3. Monday will be Terrorbytes Episode 4 watch party. Tuesday will be Rip Out Round 4. So, pretty heavy on the live streaming this weekend into next week, and pretty heavy on survival horror, whether it's playing a horror game or watching this Terrorbytes survival horror documentary. And I'm going to close, because I'll be on vacation, I'll be coming back June 30th, that Monday. That Monday, I'll do the final watch party for Terrorbytes, and that will be Episode 5 to close out the month and close out the celebration that I've been doing. I didn't mention it during the watch, but part of my celebration of 4 years of doing live streaming, I wanted to do Terrorbytes, so as to like I mentioned, celebrate live streaming survival horror and celebrate the arrival of my gaming PC. So, with all that out of the way, guys, make sure to like the video on your way out, subscribe on all the platforms that you're watching this on. Therefore, mark your calendars and say your prayers. I've been Inkarnate, offering a word of caution. Fear the worst, so long you recognize who's best.
Your fate? Time to subscribe to your fears.
Scary night, isn't it? It's like right out of a horror movie or something.
See you in your dreams. Oh, come back anytime. Bring your friends.
Welcome to my nightmare.